We are coming live from Advancing Prefab 2023 here in Phoenix, and I am joined now by Ryan. Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you kind of came to Advancing Prefab this year.
So, had you asked me 12 months ago if I'd be in Phoenix for Advancing Prefab show, I would have had no clue what you were even talking about. A couple of years ago, I was introduced to an engineering firm named KLH, really progressive. Talk a lot about their prefab approach to construction and the ways that it was going to benefit trade contractors. And at the time, I was a trade contractor involved in heating and air. And long story short, got to know their president and COO, Jim Tavernelli, and then joined about 10 months ago. And then magically here I am.
Yeah, we're familiar with Jim. I was telling you right before, he had the #1 episode for a long time. Then he's gotten dethroned now, but
his head's already getting big.
He had it. Yeah. That's what's important. So, what kind of attracted you into this world? How does a trade contractor come over?
So, I started at like 13, welding tub valves in a fab shop for my family's plumbing company. So, in short, like in hindsight, I realized like prefabrication was in my blood from a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And was one of the means of which we were successful as a family plumbing company. And so with that as like my built into my DNA of trade contractor, and then through the years living that, and then having spent 10 years in heating and air and the pain points of what engineers subject us to, because in many cases they are like the evil to trade contractors.
The dark side. Yeah.
Exactly. And a couple of years ago, KLH, I was introduced to them by my executive coach at the time, and they came down and met with J.R. Hobbs, who I was with at the time, and we're speaking a good talk. Like, hey, we're not the status quo. We want to help get you automated takeoffs. We want to design for installation. We want to help you be better at what you're doing, which was just a complete paradigm shift from what we were used to, which was fighting with these guys and their egos.
Right.
And so that piqued my interest into KLH. Well, about not last year, I guess it was late 21, was feeling like change was needed, and was introduced to Jim. We started talking, working through like what KLH was going through, their domain group, Configure, which is another investment that they've made. Long story short, it really worked out to be a good fit, and bringing the trade contractor perspective into that engineering to help with our strategic pursuits moving forward, and the rest is history.
Yeah, very nice. How do you think your background has positioned you with maybe a different perspective around prefab and modular?
A true respect for the efficiencies that it provides, and the ability to measure twice, cut once in a controlled environment that reduces the probability of clashes with other trades. And that was, I was primarily involved in multifamily construction my entire life.
Okay.
And it's just strewn with inefficiencies. It's not quite as sexy as like higher education and airport terminals and that kind of thing. And so having that respect for what prefab can bring to that was huge to me.
Yeah. So coming into this show, what are some of the takeaways that have been standing out so far? And we're early days. We're only kind of halfway through the first day here.
Yeah, it was in the headspace a little bit, even approaching, right? Getting yourself prepared for what was to come. The enthusiasm of so many like-minded people has been amazing. A lot of times you go to conferences and it feels like a lot of people going through the motions, checking the box that they made it, tell their boss like, here's what I learned.
Right.
People here really seem to be walking the walk, talking the talk. So it's cool to see the groups like DPR really leading the way from a GC perspective, because I feel like in the value stream of what's happening in this industry, it's one thing to be on the design side and the trade contractor side requesting the implementation of these things. I think it's huge for somebody to be a proponent of it like DPR. And so one of the big takeaways I've had is the gaining momentum that it's having at that side of the value stream. So.
Yeah. How do you take the energy and the excitement that's here at an event like this and continue it out into the the real world and bring others along into the movement?
So from a design perspective, I think it's being a consistent steward for what prefab, productization, and industrialized construction offers, to start to involve it as soon as possible. Getting up front with owners, the CMs, the GCs, about how we can design to it. So building out the tools within Revit and the proper families that would help facilitate those kinds of things is where KLH as engineers needs to be stewards of the availability of that and conscientious of how we can incorporate that stuff.
Yeah, so how does the industry as a whole really take the leap to productization, and maybe how are you guys doing it at KLH, because you guys are really helping to drive a lot of that movement and inertia as well?
Continue to listen to what the industry is evolving to, incorporating that into our models. We're building out, we're going through what we call our technical strategy 2.0. 1.0 is going from AutoCAD to 100% Revit.
Yeah.
2.0 is now that next evolutionary step in efficiencies and incorporation to grow with how things are evolving. And I think it's our place to continue to reflect the products that are coming out, get those into our specs if possible, and helping to work with trade contractors about what can be incorporated. What are you doing to our drawings for your shop drawings that we should be doing on the front end, like incorporating assemblies, productization, IC items, that kind of stuff.
Talk to me about some of the communication aspect of it between all the different stakeholders. How do you create the buy-in necessary? Maybe your background helps kind of gives you a leg up in that as well too. That you can speak the talk to those different people. How do you get them in and really bought into modular? This is what we're going to do. This is why we're going to do it, and excited about it, not just kind of grudgingly going along.
Well, again, we can promote and provide the tools to our teams to design with modularization in mind. But it really takes the trade partners who are capable of the installation and the desire from the ownership and GC and CM side of things. We kind of sit in the middle, right?
Right.
We got the owner, the architects, GC, then there's us, then there's trade contractors and second tier subs. So we're sitting there right solid in the middle, helping to keep education going for the front end of that value stream, so that it's a function of the desire to build those efficiencies, save cost, become more sustainable, and evolve to even how this whole labor force is moving forward too.
Yeah. So you brought up sustainability there. I'm going to double click on that. What's kind of the next step in really creating a more streamlined approach to, and really kind of spreading that message to the next layer of why sustainability in construction, what's the impact, and what's it have to do?
So starting to address things coming from a first cost perspective, because many times, like a merchant builder who's building apartment complexes, as an example, purely to get it occupied, flip it, and sell it, are focused on one thing and one thing only. That is like usually, or typically, it's first cost. How much is it going to take them to get those keys turning? Yep. So starting to address with those individuals the importance of using things like Energy Star fans, low flush fixtures, and the impact that they can use as potential selling points if they are going to sell, or even retention points to holding on to those kinds of properties, the impact that they're making on the environment, on the industry, and that frequently it's not an additional long term. It's going to cost them less to make those kinds of investments, and that's a point at which we can make a very quick impact. Is specifying those kind of low gallon per flush items, low water usage, Energy Star utility items, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're talking about really flipping a paradigm on its head in terms of not looking at the initial upfront cost, but taking that long-term view, which historically, everything is project-driven instead of with that eye to how are we going to create efficiencies as a company over 5, 10, 15 plus years maybe. What kind of friction do you see that's kind of standing in the way of that mental shift?
It's a lot of it boils down to the money of it, Todd. and educating those owners and those general contractors that, hey, we know that you're getting this they call it value engineering option or value management option from your subcontractors. Hey, you go with the non-Energy Star fan. Okay, you're going to save $10 a fan, and $3,000 over the course of your project or whatever that might be.
Right.
However, know that $3,000 today is $20,000 over the 30-year life cycle of your of that building. So, starting to educate is really, I think, the starting point.
Yeah.
And then as that gains momentum, moving forward with more and more.
What do you think coming into this year's the biggest opportunity for construction in 2023?
Oh, put me on the spot, Todd. Biggest thing for construction here in the coming year. I think it continues to be education across the board of the available technologies to be incorporated into these buildings and structures as they're moving forward. I think there's a changing of the guard of sorts happening in the construction industry as a whole, good and bad. Hate to lose a lot of the decades of experience that has been built up, and know some of the best people I know in this world have been doing this for 30, 40, 50 years. But the education of the younger generation to begin more conscientiousness of the sustainability, higher efficiencies to build, incorporating modularization, prefabricated productization, all those things they're only usable if education has taken hold. So making that education available to everybody, where it's not just coming to Advancing Prefab that you hear about it or following Amy and LinkedIn, that it truly becomes the everyday conversation. Where you go to a scope out meeting and it's front of mind. It's in the checklist from the guy buying out the contracts.
So how do you take the knowledge then that's in the heads of those people that have been in for 30, 40 years and as they are retiring out, how do you not lose that knowledge but maintain the excitement and the energy and enthusiasm of the young guard coming in that are willing to shake things up and change what had been done previously?
Well, I think you're seeing it in a lot of the advancements of leveraging things like machine learning for auto routing tools, where conscientiousness for DFI is happening, design for installation, and that's really a reflection of those decades of experience. It's not just a designer saying we've got to get to permit, let's just throw this duct in the corridor, it'll condition the air there. It's making sure it's far enough off the wall for hands to reach in and get the duct wrap around and get the panduit straps and the hangers in that needs to be captured in a lot of these applications that are being developed and these features, so that we're maintaining the enthusiasm of the younger generation with these technological advancements, which are built on the intelligence that was developed by these decades of experience by these guys that are retiring.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. So kind of a offshoot of that, how do you attract new fresh blood into the industry that maybe has a bad misconception of construction or it just hasn't even thought of construction, hasn't been on their radar, they for whatever reason?
Well, I think it's a cultural stigma attached to like the blue collar work in general, of getting in, getting your hands dirty isn't necessarily a respectable career, when it's the complete opposite. I mean, I have nothing but respect for these guys that are getting out there and executing on these theoretical plans, and working their way through the dirt to get these buildings put up.
Civilization would crumble without the construction. Literally, 100%. It would crumble.
Absolutely, and it's a. There was an example I heard yesterday about the way that the Sultan King, I think it was the United Arab Emirates, promoted entrepreneurship, and it was through letting families know that it was not a shameful undertaking for entrepreneurship to take place and then fail. I think that America and the United States as a culture needs to start to display a better respect for what that career path provides, and that it's not to be, and you shouldn't be thumbing our nose at it. The trades are hugely important. They're enjoyable. I mean, I always loved getting my hands dirty for a couple of days and getting in the undergrounds and doing that kind of thing. And it's something to be really respected.
Yeah. Well, why do you think that those hurdles are there, and how can we start as a society then start chipping away at that?
I'm not quite sure. I think it boils down to education, I believe, and engaging it at younger ages before some of those presumptions are burned into the minds of some of the younger generation, where friends or influences on their lives have set that in stone for them.
Right. Exposure to the industry as well. I agree.
High school maybe, but better trade engagement.
Younger, I think you can really go into middle schools and maybe even like 4th, 5th grade before they're even starting to think about that, and just expose them to the tech that is here in the space. And there's a lot of cool stuff happening in construction that nobody ever sees unless you're in this world. And we as an industry have to do a better job of going out of our bubbles and showing what's actually happening here in construction.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head, not to be funny. My son, he 5 years old, he hears my screw gun going. Yeah. He's immediately inquisitive as to what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
Can I help? Can I use that? So encouraging some of that, I think, would be really big.
Yeah. My 7-year-old son's very similar. His favorite thing in the world is just to watch a construction site.
Just post up and
just sit there. I mean, he will watch it for hours if we let him. Or like a tree cutter. Oh man, his day is made if he can watch a tree cutter.
Well, I think there was what was it? My kids never watched. It was Bob the Builder for a while. That gained all that momentum, and it was like, hey, maybe this is gonna, this could help save, some of the shortage that we've gotten. I haven't seen him on TV, but things like that.
I don't know if Bob the Builder's still around.
I don't think he is.
I don't. He maybe got canceled. I don't know. So, what does innovation mean to you?
It is trying to not just follow the curve, but make the curve. Determine what the path of the industry and a segment it needs to be, and then being courageous enough to take that path. Mm-hmm. Take the steps necessary to promote that within a culture, within an industry, and then be the change.
Yeah. It's interesting that you use the word courage. You're the second person today to answer courage in that question. So there's something to there.
Well, it's been our at KLH, one of our current mottos is a courageous culture, and it's not always easy to have the difficult conversations. It's not always to push for the things that people are telling you are wrong. You've got to believe in those core values, be courageous enough to stand up for that, and then push to make it real.
Yeah, more than agree with that. So how do people find out more information on what KLH is doing and connect with you?
So KLHENGRS.com is our website. We keep that well and updated. Following us on LinkedIn, even myself, Ryan Dobbins, through LinkedIn as well. And we're active in our community, in the Cincinnati area predominantly. And just reach out. We're great people. We love to engage, and happy to help people figure out their own pathways.
Yeah, awesome. Well, final question for you. This is my favorite question, just a forewarning. But if I could give you all construction power, you could snap your fingers and innovate one thing in the industry, what would you pick to innovate?
Communication.
That was quick. You're the quickest to have a response to that. I like it. Okay, so why communication?
It seems to be the primary holdup in almost everything, whether it's communicating on the areas and pathways, or it's communicating on material arriving, or supply chain period, ordering POs, distribution of manpower. Somehow, like making that almost like telepathic in nature. Would I think would shift everything in the construction industry, among other things in our society, but that would be it.
So would that be more on like the technology side and creating the interoperability there?
I think so. Yes. Nice. I remember the days of when I was at my height of field involvement in construction. It was in the days of Nextels, and that ease of it's one thing to make a phone call. It feels less cumbersome to have those those walkie-talkie conversations. And it was so prevalent in the construction industry that everybody was just a button click away.
Right.
And it could just be one simple question. And I think that was as close as we got to that real-time, moment-to-moment coordination.
Yeah.
And I know that technology can catch up to that and do something to even iterate on that a lot better.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking the time and coming chatting with us and joining the show. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Thanks, Todd.